Hello and welcome. This is Avin and the Angels. The angels I channel are the nameless ones, and we bring you your April energy forecast for April 2023. We begin April with a focus on adaptation. So the angels were saying there is a need now to find new ways of adapting to your new timeline, to your new reality. If there was any lingering codependency or clinging on to a past version of self or a past identity that is not congruent and coherent with this new here and now, you're going to be called to upgrade and receive the upgrades of support to adapt and to manage how your new lifestyle, your new way of being, your new way of working plays out in your life. So this may feel a little bit intense for some people. It may feel a little bit testing or trying or tentative or tedious, but it's important that you don't fall back into old mindsets and old paradigms, because the energy is wild in April. It's powerful. We're going into a solar eclipse time, okay? So that means that big shifts and starts are happening. There's just no room for backpedaling. There's no room for doubts and insecurities. This is a time of rapid advancement and complete and utter confidence and courage in the steps you're taking to move forward. Any tests you have coming up, any ordeals you have to face it squarely in April and adapt, and know that you have the confidence, you have the courage to do so. A great medicine for this month coming up is, so I'm shooting this on the 29th of March, but the medicine for April will be compassion for other people as they face their changes, their transformations with this solar eclipse, but also compassion for yourself, right? Because you're going to be having to wake up in your new reality, and this is the new reality that you've prayed for, that you've asked for, that was answered, and hopefully in March you manifested those changes, you took those actions. It was a great time to manifest and to create those dramatic leaps of faith. April is about grounding and anchoring that down now. So there's also an element of surprise. They kept saying the word boom to me as I was writing down my notes. They were like, boom, and I was like, okay, people can take that in different ways. And they said, well, it will affect people in different ways, so it depends on where you're coming from, right? I feel the boom when I tuned deeper into the frequencies of that. I felt like it was positive surprise. It was something really, really unexpected, something that on a very conscious level you probably felt you weren't giving energy to, but it's something you need, it's something that your soul wants, and it's something that is part of your reason for coming here. It's part of your soul role and your life, this incarnation's journey. I feel like that will materialize around more inclined to materialize around mid-April to late April, okay? So they were like, surprise, surprise. be careful with these frequencies not to get pulled into fantasy stuff. So if you're somebody who loves escapism and falls into less than beneficial behaviors to escape reality, be extra mindful in April that you're not falling into those patterns and behaviors. The energy of escape, of fantasy, of dreaminess can be enhanced and increased at this time. Now, you can use that in a very positive way. You can use that to bring out your inner child, your playfulness. Like, I decided to just throw this on last minute because I think it's a great symbol of Easter, of April, of playfulness, of the inner child, and the dreaminess and the fantasy, like play, dress up, role playing, all that kind of stuff. So you can actually bring that energy into your love life, into your romantic, your intimacy life with yourself and with others. And that can be a healthy way to use these energies coming in. But if you're somebody who has a tendency to get caught on some outside entities' will for you, it's important that you are centered in yourself and that you get your work done and achieve your goals, especially in the first week or two of April, because there is a Mercury retrograde coming up and that will slow things down. So if there's specific things that you want to tend to, I would start right after this video to make those calls and sort those things out, okay? So just to be aware that you can use that fantastical energy, those frequencies, to your benefit, to enhance your life. Like I said, you can be more creative at this time. Like there's huge amounts of creative energy just bursting in. Like April is a phenomenal month. Like I'm actually, I'm trying to give it the justice it deserves, but I'm actually really, really tired. I've been working flat out and I just want to give April, I'll probably do a part 2 of this video like I did for March, because I feel like April is just so big. It's hard to kind of compact it all into this small video, but we'll see how we go. So yeah, there's a wild energy. So apart from the fantastical, fantasy, dreamy stuff, there's, and just to say about that as well, some of you might find out, you might have had a fantasy picture of somebody. You might have applied for a job, a specific role, thinking that it would be like the fantasy in your head, in your mind, in your heart. And then you actually adapt into that role, or you meet that person, you go on that date, and you realize it's actually been a projected fantasy, that it's not quite what you thought it was going to be. So the reality may not quite meet your expectations of the dream that you had. So there can be this element of making peace with our fantasies and our dreams of how we think a person should be, or how we think a job should flow, or how maybe we're moving to a new part of the country, and we have this ideal of how it's going to feel when we move there, and then we unbox our stuff and we go, this isn't quite what I expected it to be, or how I dreamt it was going to feel. So just go easy on yourself with that, because with this, it's like a glamour, okay? So the word glamour actually stems from, the true meaning of the word glamour means a facade. It means like you're not seeing things clearly, okay? So it's like putting a spell on someone. That's what the word glamour actually comes from, if you go back into the language of it. So these energies can put a glamour on things. So maybe you meet somebody online and you think that they're the bee's knees, and then you meet them in person and the reality is a shock. It's a surprise. You're like, whoa. Or maybe, and that's not to say it will go the negative way. You might be like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to have much chemistry with this person. And then you meet up after being chatting online for a while and you are blown away. They're actually a million times more compatible with you than you ever thought that you could be. So, you know, I think with eclipse season coming in, a lot of people can just want to duck and dive under the duvet, and they think that it's going to be all negative or a tough time, and that's just not true. Eclipses, and especially solar eclipses, which is what we have coming up in April, they're very activating, and they help us to have new beginnings, and they transform us, and they push us, and they encourage us. So truly there's nothing to fear about April or about the upcoming eclipse season. It's a great time of passion. There's a lot of romance and deep internal passions. And I don't mean always, I think passion always gets associated with sexuality, and that's included here. But passion for, perhaps you are buying a new home, or you're moving in with your partner for the first time, and you're putting that key in the door. Or perhaps your passion is your craft, you know. So you're honing a craft, and you're being impassioned to do so, especially now in the next few weeks. Circle April 11th. And I'm actually a number 11, so I love 11, and 1111 is the angel's number. My date of birth adds up to 11. And you can do that and find out your life path number. It's really, really fascinating. But April 11th is considered one of the luckiest days. It's a very, very profound, powerful. It's a day where there's a burst of energy, there's high frequencies, there's a lot of support. So if you're making particularly big changes that you feel have a big impact, and I do feel many of us will be making changes in April that have a big impact on the rest of our lives, not just the rest of the year, the rest of our lives. But part of that is owning this new reality and keeping ourselves in alignment enough that we can continue to feed and fuel the new frequencies that we need to carry us through, especially going into eclipse season. So April 11th, lucky day. It's also a mark of a new beginning. So like I said, if you're ending a marriage, if you're having to sign divorce papers, if you're doing something big like that, or maybe your job that you've worked in for 15 years is coming to an end, this is a day to hone in to the desired new beginning, new reality, and to receive the miracle of the energies of this day, and to use these energies to really transform yourself into the new person you become and the new life that you want to lead now. So definitely circle April 11th. Okay. What else did I hear from? Oh yeah, so it is a great time. The beginning of April is a wonderful time for independence. So that also means that any codependency issues or codependency patterns of behavior will be highlighted. Go inside and do your work. The videos prior to this, there's always a thread in my videos, okay? I talked a lot about shadows. I talked about the shadow self, and that's really being highlighted in the last few days of March and the first few days of April. And we are being shown how we can become more independent, and that we have the strength, we have the presence, we have the courage and the confidence, if we look deep enough inside ourselves, to make the necessary changes. But also to love our new selves and our new now. To fall in love with our new now. And not to be looking back. And not to be allowing any mournful, karmic, old stuff from that old transit that we closed up in March. Not to be falling back into habitual negative thinking about that. Okay. So, a word of caution would be, mind your words, because moving into the middle of April, and as we go further into that, and Mercury retrogrades and everything, which is much further at the end, your words can be very sharp around that time. There can be a tendency to lack patience and to get wires crossed or miscommunicate or just be a bit too blunt. So even though it's so important to be honest, we don't have to be cruel. There's a difference with being honest and sincere. You can be honest and kind, even if it's a hard truth to express. If you're speaking from your heart, you really don't have anything to worry about, because when the heart is activated, it will never speak a truth cruelly or harshly. It will always come from a place of love. And in my previous video, I talked about how there's a power of intention behind things. So there's an intention of purity, love, kindness, but also honesty. And radical honesty can still be expressed with kindness and love. And even if we have to say something that seems quite stark to somebody, we can own that truth. Even if we know the other person may not be happy to receive that, we can own that powerfully without being disrespectful to the other person. So respect and honor is really important. And especially just to be mindful of that sharpness that can be there at certain points in April as well. There's so much going on in April that it can create like a feeling of it can create a feeling of intensity, especially around the 5th, I feel I'm getting. But know that we can soften that intensity by being present and by tuning in before we speak. So I don't know why, but I'm being asked to share this for somebody. Someone was saying to me how we were talking about intentions and how the energy behind an act or the energy behind behaviors is everything. The energy that a person embodies is everything. It's why we can look at somebody and be in their presence and say, wow, he is so beautiful. And yet society may not say he's a handsome man, but his energy is beautiful. So he's beautiful because energy doesn't lie, and we can trust and follow the energy. And it's why you can be in the presence of somebody, a woman who society would technically say is a beautiful woman, but her energy is not beautiful. Her energy is prickly or ugly in some way. Perhaps she's cruel and she's whatever, her ego's too big or whatever, and it's not a beautiful energy, right? And suddenly a person's beauty, whether whoever it is, man, woman, whatever, unicorn, can just deflate and diminish because the authentic energy is not there to back up the physical or the glamour of what they're portraying. But we were talking about people can talk quite openly, unfiltered when they're in work because their colleagues don't know their personal life. They don't know their husband or wives or their children, or it's like a world outside of your personal world, your personal space. And especially if people live in big cities and things like that, or especially if people are away, if they're on holiday, right? That's a well-known thing. Sometimes when people are away on holiday, it brings out, it extracts a different side of them. And it can shock them, they can be more risk-taking or just taking more of a gamble with situations and experiences. And this person was talking about how someone they knew was sharing how they could have joined in a conversation where they were like talking, very lowbrow talk about the opposite sex or having an opportunity to be unfaithful of some kind. And they were saying, like almost giving themselves a pat on the back and saying, but I didn't take the bait, I wasn't unfaithful. I could have been, but I wasn't. And my friend and I were saying, it's funny how some people feel that they can get away with stuff, but they're not getting away with anything because they would know that they've done something that didn't match who they truly are or what their heart truly wants. So, it's funny how we can have these self-betrayals and think that we got a cheat sheet somehow, but we know, like if you're doing something, it's kind of like they just show me this image of somebody who's telling their family who has a health crisis, I'm going on a diet, right? I'm going on a health whole food diet. And then at night they're in the fridge sneaking something that they're not meant to be eating. It's like, who do you think you're kidding? Or it's like somebody in addiction who sneaks a drink or sneaks a drug and they're like, but nobody knows. I did it on my own on Saturday night in my apartment. Yeah, but you know. And it's not about anybody else. It's not about what your friends and family think. It's not about who knows if you're a good person or you made the right choice. It's about what you know about who you are. And I always say this. If you can look at yourself in the mirror, first thing in the morning or last thing at night before you get into bed, and you can say, I'm good with me. I know who I am. I know I'm doing my best. I'm happy with the person I have grown into and become. That's all that matters. If you can look in the mirror, and I don't necessarily mean the physical mirror, I mean the mirror of your soul, of your spirit, and say, you know what? I'm living my best life. I'm going for it. I am loving myself. I'm doing what's right for me. That's gold. You're a rich man or woman, let me tell you. You are doing really, really well if you can say that. And to me, that's always been my ultimate joy. That's my happiness. When I can look at myself and say, good girl, Aoibhinn, you did good today. That's what's important. And this little thing is coming to mind now. I don't know why they're asking me to share this. Honestly, I wonder if this stuff has any relevance, but here we go. There was something I needed to do for myself. It was a health issue. I won't get into it. And I kind of put it down the list, you know. I had a lot of things to do. I came out of my job. I was into the shopping mall. I had to pick up a few things, and it was a person I love. It was their birthday, and I had, I was trying to get everything organized and whatever. And I found myself consciously choosing not to tend to that thing. And I walked out, and I was outside, like walking away from the entrance of the shopping mall, and I felt my angel say, "What are you doing? You need to go back in and you need to sort that. And you need to, get the pills or get the thing, whatever, you need to love yourself enough to give yourself that 5-10 minutes to tend to that." And I thought, wow. And I knew I'm at a point in my life now, I won't be at peace if I'm not loving myself, right? I won't be at peace if I'm putting myself way down the list. So I turned on my heel, even though I was exhausted, I was sweating. It was necessary. I knew that in the past I would have just said, oh well, I'm not important, but I am important, and I know that now. And I know that without me, all the good stuff that I bring to the world and share with the world, if I'm not in alignment and I'm not in ship shape, I have nothing to give anyway. So it's all connected. We are all walking each other home. So I went back in and I tended to it, and I felt the relief and I felt the peace. So there's a message in that for someone. Perhaps there's something you just put off, and April is just not going to allow you to procrastinate. To have that inner peace, you're going to have to actually back it up with the action. And you're going to have to work with the energies, right? And the next 2 weeks are primed for you to take those actions and to independently step up and say, okay, well, this is what I want to experience now. This is where I'm going. This is what I want to create. And just to be aware that the energies will gently decrease and kind of neutralize into a more quieter vibe as we come into the last week of April. So keep that in mind. So it's good to know these things because we can work with them. We can plan things accordingly. It's like with my cycle as a woman, I like to plan things around my cycle because I know the week of my bleed, I am not going to be booking in clients. I am not going to be feeling particularly social. It's a downtime that's necessary for me to cleanse, to rebuild, to strengthen, to rejuvenate, so that when I do go back into my next new cycle, that I bring all new fresh energy, and that I have the strength, I have the fortitude to do that. So we have to remember in life, we need a little bit of everything, we need the balance. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Thanks so much for all your comments and your likes and your shares. And I wish you an April full of dance and wildness and movement and nature and connection. I think it's a great time to transform and rebuild and to adapt. Yeah, I just keep getting the word adapt. But adapt in a playful way and adapt in a creative way. Do something outside of what's comfortable. Do something new and fresh, because like I said, there's so much packed into April, and I will do a part 2 if the angels give me the information, of course. I'm sure they will. And I'll see you then. Please give this video a thumbs up. It encourages me and helps me to see that what I'm sharing with you is relevant, that it's helpful. That's my intention, as always. God bless.